I never thought my own family would erase me while I was still alive. Yet one night, flat on a hospital bed with fluorescent lights buzzing above me, I scrolled past a photo that stopped my heart harder than any monitor could. There they were, my son and his wife, smiling at my kitchen table, raising glasses over a caption that read, "Finally, a drama-free family dinner." And the worst part? I was tagged, like some kind of ghost haunting a room I wasn't welcome in. You can live 6 decades, raise children, bury a husband, pay every bill on time, and still be treated like an obstacle in your own story. That night, I realized it wasn't just disrespect. It was something colder, something calculated. Accounts I hadn't opened, purchases I hadn't made, and a silence from my son that rang louder than any phone call. I wanted to believe it was all a misunderstanding, but the evidence started piling up faster than excuses, and every receipt told a truth my family never would. That's when I had to choose. Keep swallowing humiliation, or pick up the kind of paper no one can argue with. Contracts, affidavits, motions. The kind of paper that doesn't lie. And that choice, made in a blur of pain and betrayal, would carry me from a hospital curtain all the way to a courthouse bench. But it started smaller than that. It started with a folder I named Maple. The fluorescent lights above my ER curtain buzzed with a faint, hollow hum, the kind that finds its way into your molars if you lie still long enough. My phone lit up beside the crumpled tissue I hadn't used, vibrating softly against the plastic tray that held a single unopened packet of saltines. A notification floated across the cracked screen. Finally, a drama-free family dinner. I was tagged, under a photo of my own kitchen table. 4 people smiled in the frame. Ryan, Kendra, her sister Ashley, and someone's elbow I didn't recognize. The white pitcher I'd bought from a craft fair in Hocking Hills sat centered, filled with tulips I didn't put there. The same pitcher that once held lemonade for Sophie's 6th birthday now served as Kendra's centerpiece. I took a breath that made the pulse oximeter beep, peeled off the wristband, and slipped it into my purse like a receipt I wasn't sure I'd want to look at again. The nurse had said I was fine, just a combination of stress, missed meals, and maybe being overdue for quiet. I was stable, unhooked, unmonitored, but far from okay. Ryan had called twice during intake. I hadn't answered either time. Outside the ER entrance, a cab idled with its hazards blinking like Morse code. I climbed in. The driver asked if I wanted more heat. I said nothing. He turned the dial anyway, and the vents blew out something that smelled like pine-scented cleaning spray. My coat rubbed against the blue hospital wristband still snug on my wrist. I tugged at it but left it on. Let it bite. Kendra's post kept climbing in likes. By the time we reached my 1-bedroom apartment, I had memorized the caption. Not because it surprised me. No, this was Kendra in her purest form. Caption first, narrative later. Her words hit harder than the hospital monitor's alarms had earlier. Drama-free. The deadbolt clicked behind me like punctuation. Home, alone. The coffee here was better anyway. No one to ask why it wasn't the sale brand this time. The scent bloomed through the quiet. I pulled out my chipped blue mug, the one with the faded bird print Ryan made in 3rd grade, and let it warm beneath the drip. Then I opened the laptop. Its glow pooled across the kitchen table, the same table from the photo, minus tulips and smiles, and lit up the inbox I had ignored for weeks. Denise Carter's subject line blinked. Maple Street, listing docs, ready when you are. I clicked and unmuted the phone. Denise, I said. My voice was hoarse but steady. Well, good evening, she said crisply, like someone who preferred to skip small talk and deliver results. Are we listing Maple? Yes, I said. Start the clock. She walked me through the disclosures. Roof age, appliance warranties, furnace tune-ups, and I clicked as she spoke. The rhythm settled me. Documents I could manage. Unlike emotions, documents didn't talk back or leave lipstick on your glass. By the time we reached the part about staging options, the wristband had found its place beside the mouse. It looked small next to the manila folder I'd labeled Maple. "You're ahead of most," Denise said. "Let me know when you're ready for the photographer. Aim for next Thursday." I thanked her and hung up. An email pinged. From Alicia Park, Esq. Subject: Next steps. Initial review. Her message was exactly what I needed. Clipped, numbered, actionable. 1. Pull credit from all 3 bureaus. 2. Freeze all accounts. 3. Scan current ID. 4. Forward any mail from Maple Street. 5. Log any contact from the other party. I created a folder on my desktop, named it Maple, began dragging PDFs into it, Denise's agreement, the title search, old tax forms. I added a sticky note to the laptop lid: freeze, affidavit, police report. I opened the credit bureau site next and stared at the security questions I'd once thought were clever. Favorite vacation spot? First pet's name, the kind of details that once built a life, now being used to protect one. My blue mug had cooled. I sipped anyway. I didn't feel brave, just awake. I clicked sign on Denise's document. The site asked for a passcode. I entered it with the tip of my ring finger, like that somehow made it official. Then I said it out loud, just to myself, just once. List it, file it. The words didn't echo. They landed. Something behind my ribs unlocked. I started gathering envelopes and loose papers from the side drawer, creating a stack next to the printer. Birth certificates, insurance letters, mortgage statements. I had always kept things just in case. That night, just in case became absolutely necessary. I didn't need Ryan's permission. I didn't need Kendra's narrative. I needed truth, on paper. The mug emptied beside me. I pulled a sweater over my shoulders, though I hadn't noticed the cold until then. The fluorescent buzz still echoed in my head, but I no longer felt like I was lying under it. I was up. I was sorting. Then my phone lit up again. Unknown number. Heard you're listing our house. No name, just the message. I stared at the pronoun our. I let the screen dim and opened the credit bureau tab instead. The mailbox stopped being mine the week Arthur died. No one said it out loud, but the mortgage company sent his condolences to Maple Street, and my new debit card followed without asking where I lived. The name was still mine, but the house had learned new habits. It started softly. Ryan sitting beside me on the porch swing that fall, the one Arthur had built with bolts he sanded smooth. Ryan's tone was that reasonable kind, the voice people use when they've rehearsed being right. He spoke of the roof, shingles curling like dried leaves, then the furnace that made a knocking sound when it shouldn't, and the lawn Arthur used to edge with military precision now growing wild against the sidewalk. "Just for a year, Mom. To regroup. It's not forever." He called it temporary. Kendra folded towels beside him, ones that weren't mine, and nodded without looking up. That was 2019. I rented a 1-bedroom 3 blocks away, with lemon yellow walls and an oven light that blinked when the fridge opened. They called it a reset. Ryan promised the house would stay empty except for storage. The dining table, Arthur's table, was too big for their place, so it stayed. So did the china cabinet. So did my wedding photo, for a time. The first casserole I brought back after the funeral sat untouched on the new granite counter, its foil still sealed. That fall, I passed Maple and saw orange leaf bags stacked precisely by the curb. A new mailbox stood proud, square, clean. I didn't have a key. When I asked, Ryan said, "Oh, it's just easier if I collect everything while you're between places." Between. In 2020, they painted. Greg. Not gray, not beige, just neutral. I asked about the old wallpaper, the one Arthur and I chose after our 10th anniversary. Ryan smiled, said they had to brighten the space. I found a single torn strip behind the laundry door and folded it into my purse. Every year, another small erasure. A candle sat in the hallway, 3-wick, lavender, still with the clearance sticker on the glass. My birthday passed with a Facebook comment from Kendra. "Hope it's a good one," posted 2 days late. Sophie's drawings, once on the fridge, were replaced with travel photos I hadn't taken. A gallery wall grew in the hallway. I wasn't in any frame. This morning, I woke to March wind tapping the glass of my apartment window. I made coffee and turned on the printer. It groaned, like it hadn't stretched in weeks, then whirred alive and started spitting out reams, bank statements, emails, transaction histories. I labeled a binder, Maple. Inside, I built tabs. HELOC, $75,000, opened last fall. I hadn't signed anything. Cards, 4 new accounts in Ryan's name, all linked to my address. Minimum payments made, balances climbing. Mexico, $8,000 over 4 days in December. Ryan had told me Sophie was sleeping over at a friend's for New Year's. There'd been no mention of flights. Jewelry, a receipt for $3,200 at a boutique 2 towns over, dated the same day I collapsed in the ER. Social, Kendra's captions, archived screenshots. Mom said yes to Mexico. Grateful for this man and this life we're building. Hashtag second chances. There was no ring on her finger when I saw her last. Timeline, my own handwritten log, month by month. Every omission, every redirected envelope, every email she replied to on my behalf. The contact number on every financial record? Ryan's cell. When I emailed the binder summary to Alicia with the subject line, pattern, I didn't expect a reply until afternoon. She responded in 8 minutes. Good, keep going. Screenshots of captions too. I kept going. I printed the FTC identity theft affidavit template and placed it in the back of the binder. I didn't fill it out yet. I wanted Alicia's eyes on everything first. I flipped back to the front and ran my hand down the plastic dividers. The tactile rhythm of paper, the labeled order, it steadied me. I wasn't angry, not yet, but I was clear. Sophie called around lunch. Her voice still had that feather edge of childhood, but her words were sharp. "Grandma," she said, "why is the house on Zillow?" I told her I was moving forward with some things. She was quiet. Then, "I like the wallpaper better." I smiled. "Me too." A text came in right after I hung up. Denise Carter, 2 cash buyers want a first look as soon as we can show. The implication was clear. To show the house, I'd have to walk through their curated version of me, one where I never stood on that porch swing, never folded wallpaper into a purse, never owned the mailbox or the walls or the quiet between wind chimes. I clicked the binder shut. The tabs held steady. They sent their 12-year-old to negotiate. The knock came hesitant, then firmer, then a rolling sound as suitcase wheels bumped my welcome mat. When I opened the door, Sophie stood there, cheeks pink from the damp air, carrying a roller bag that looked too heavy for her small frame. "Grandma," she said, rehearsed words tumbling out. "Mom says if you sell the house, we'll have to live in the car." The hall light above us blinked on and off, casting her face into quick shadows. I glanced past her shoulder. Down on the curb, Ryan's sedan idled, hazard lights clicking like a metronome. The smell of wet cardboard floated up from the lobby, remnants of boxes softened by last night's rain. Their theater was running right on schedule. "Come in, sweetheart," I said, stepping aside. The wheels clicked over the threshold, a sound far too final for a child's luggage. Inside, I made cocoa, real milk, not the powdered kind Kendra preferred for convenience. Sophie's fingers wrapped around the mug, and steam curled above her freckles. I asked her one question, just one. "Where were you for Christmas?" Her shoulders dropped like she'd been waiting for permission to tell the truth. "At Sarah's. We played board games and drank cocoa. Her mom made cinnamon rolls. Mom and Dad said they had to help sick relatives, but they couldn't take me because I might catch something. She sipped and winced when it burned her tongue. I nodded, not to her, but to the timeline already writing itself in my head. Mexico receipts. $8,000. Dates overlapping with a child sleeping on someone else's couch. I slid my phone across the table, screen glowing with the resort statement, and tapped the forward arrow. To Alicia. Message. Mexico receipt plus child left, yo/friends. Grandma? Sophie asked. Am I in trouble? Not even close, I said. You're helping fix it. When the cocoa was half gone, I zipped her suitcase shut again and walked her downstairs. The hazards still blinked. Ryan rolled his window down, impatience already in his posture. Well, he said, did you talk sense into her? I leaned in so only he and Kendra could hear. If you weaponize your child again, I will add child endangerment to the report I'm filing. His face drained of color. Kendra leaned across him, voice polished for effect. Evelyn, this isn't how families behave. We're supposed to take care of each other. Then act like it at hospitals, I said, stepping back. Or birthdays, or funerals. Her lipstick barely cracked when her mouth pressed into a line. I brought Sophie upstairs again. Her suitcase thunked against each step, the wheels knocking in rhythm with the hazards outside. This time, when I closed the door, I locked it. You're safe here tonight, I told her. She kicked off her sneakers and curled into the couch, cocoa mug beside her like a trophy. At my desk, I printed 2 more pieces for the binder. The Mexico receipt, the jewelry charge from the day of my collapse. Behind each tab, HELOC, cards, Mexico, jewelry, social, timeline. The evidence thickened. I added a fresh header page in block letters, ER, post, curb, Monday. The binder was becoming a map, each divider a landmark. My pen wrote the date on the cocoa packet box flap before I tucked it into the binder pocket. Small, maybe silly, but consistent. Then I called Alicia. She answered on the second ring, calm as ever. I told her about the doorstep scene, Sophie's Christmas confession. I could hear her typing while I spoke. Preserve devices, capture every post with timestamps, she instructed. We file the police report Monday. I'll prepare emergency temporary custody with Sophie's statement. Send me the screenshots of that IG caption too. Already saved, I said. Good. Keep the child with you tonight. If they show up, don't engage. Call me and call CPD. When we hung up, I called the non-emergency number. Sergeant Miguel Torres returned the call within half an hour. His voice was steady, practical. He walked me through the checklist again. Devices, screenshots, receipts, dates. Paper speaks louder than anger, Ms. Brooks. Keep your binder tight. I looked across the room. Sophie had fallen asleep, one arm over her suitcase, as if it might wander without her. The hazards outside finally clicked off. Silence settled. I breathed for the first time that evening. Then the blinds lit blue, then red. A firm knock followed, solid against the frame. Columbus PD, Ms. Brooks? I exhaled, slid the binder closer to the couch, and opened the door. Denise's key slid into the lock, a metallic click that felt louder than it should, and Maple Street seemed to inhale before exhaling a scent of lemon cleaner and freshly vacuumed carpet. The house looked polished, waiting for strangers to decide its worth. Out on the lawn, the showing rider tilted slightly, one screw loose, a sign hung in haste. Hydrangea bushes still slept, bare twigs holding tight to buds not ready for April air. I stepped inside in the blue paper booties Denise handed me. The plastic crinkled against hardwood floors I used to polish with Arthur, back when weekends were for chores and laughter. I hadn't crossed this threshold in months, and yet every corner shouted curated calm, a performance staged for people who would never know the wallpaper we had once chosen, or the scratches Arthur's boots left near the mudroom. My pulse stayed steady. I wasn't here to mourn. I was here with a binder that felt heavier than its paper. Behind me, a familiar SUV pulled to the curb. Kendra emerged first, sunglasses large, jacket tailored, every step rehearsed. She didn't ring the bell. She floated in, fingertips grazing the newel post like it purred for her. "We love what we've done with our home," she announced to the two cash buyers Denise had just greeted. Her voice carried that social media glow, polished and bright. Denise, clipboard balanced on her palm, didn't look up. "Title search shows sole owner, Evelyn Brooks." She emphasized sole. One buyer's pen froze mid-signature, ink pooling a small circle on the disclosure form. The other looked down quickly, hiding surprise behind real estate manners. From across the street, Mr. Jeffries lifted his phone as naturally as other men raised a wave. His porch cam had been watching for years, and today it blinked like a witness. Ryan trailed Kendra, smile stretched too wide, laugh pitched too high. "Technicalities," he said, voice light but veins rising at his neck. "Paperwork just hasn't caught up yet." He scanned the buyers for agreement. None arrived. Denise led the walkthrough, cadence professional, every doorway another exhibit. I stayed a half step back, binder under my arm, its colored tabs stiff from last night's printer heat. I didn't need speeches. The paper would talk. We paused in the dining room. My wedding photo had once hung there, Arthur's smile as wide as the Ohio sky. Now the wall displayed a gallery of vacations I had never been told about. Slopes, beaches, dinners out. Kendra stopped beneath the spotlight track, tulips arranged in a vase at the head of the table. "It's been a labor of love," she told the buyers, voice softening for effect. Denise tapped her pen. "All reimbursed by Evelyn." Dry as March wind. Another pause. A silence hung, thick as dust. By the kitchen island, stainless steel gleamed. Kendra leaned back against it, posture claiming territory. "This home has been our heart," she said. I set my purse on the counter, the ER wristband inside pressing against the stamped title search like two witnesses folded together. My hand rested flat over the leather strap. My voice stayed even. "My ownership is intact." Ryan's laugh cracked. "She's downsizing. We're just continuing her story." "My story," I said, "is intact too." Across the street, Jeffrey's phone lens caught the words. He didn't wave. He recorded. When the buyers excused themselves, politeness covering discomfort, Kendra turned on me, her smile collapsing into hiss. "You're humiliating us." I looked at the crooked rider on the lawn sign. "You're doing that well enough yourselves." Denise touched my elbow lightly. "Let's go. Let the process speak." She gathered her clipboard like a shield and steered me outside. Alicia's office smelled of fresh toner and determination. Her conference table was wide oak, edges neat with yellow pads and capped pens. I opened the binder, spreading tabs like chapters. HELOC, cards, Mexico, jewelry, social, timeline. Paper turned into testimony. Alicia's eyes scanned columns, her pen underlining in blue ink. Midway through our review, my phone buzzed. Unknown number, local code. I almost ignored it, then pressed accept. A low, worn voice. "This is Tessa Monroe. I'm Kendra's sister." The words carried fatigue, like she had rehearsed them all morning. She didn't wait for my reply. "She did this to our grandmother. Different city, same script." I thought maybe it was coincidence, but it wasn't. She isolates, she spends, she builds stories around it. Silence thickened. Alicia leaned closer, listening as I put the call on speaker. Tessa's words fell heavy, one after another, like bricks stacked on a wall I hadn't seen but always felt. Pattern. That was the word Alicia wrote in block letters. We went back to the binder with sharper eyes. Alicia circled transactions, Mexico resort, jewelry store. The emergency room date matched to a purchase receipt. "This isn't lifestyle," she said. "This is strategy." By late afternoon, we drove to the Franklin County Clerk's office. Fluorescent lights hummed, glass slots framed with metal edges. The clerk's rubber stamp thudded against the counter, imprinting date and time in black ink across the emergency motion for temporary custody. She slid it back through the slot. I placed it in the binder pocket beside the ER wristband, artifacts of two different emergencies that told the same story. My body had cracked under their neglect, and my granddaughter's safety had cracked under their indulgence. Alicia closed her file. "You'll be on the morning docket." Her voice carried calm certainty, like weather already forecast. Back at my apartment, the March wind had softened, tapping less insistently at the window. I brewed coffee in the chipped blue mug, the same one I carried through every call, every late-night scan. My phone pinged with new mail. No subject, just attachments. The files bore a name that dried my mouth. Guardianship Petition Draft. PDF. Screenshots of typed pleadings, highlighted phrases, calendar notes. In red ink, circled twice, incompetent. I sat still, listening to the faint hum of the printer cooling, the clock hands moving toward midnight. Outside, traffic hissed over wet asphalt. I opened the folder named Maple, slid the new files inside, and stared at the word incompetent until its letters blurred. The house might sell, the custody motion might hold, but this email was proof of intent, colder than receipts, sharper than captions. They hadn't only wanted my house or my credit. They wanted the definition of me, rewritten in court ink. The hallway outside domestic relations court smelled faintly of pencil shavings and floor polish, the kind of scent that pulled me straight back to grade school. Except now the desks were polished oak benches and the clock ticked toward hearings instead of recess. Sophie's hand slid into mine, her palm still small and damp with nerves. I gave her fingers the gentlest squeeze, letting her know we were walking this hallway together. Across from us, Ryan studied the terrazzo floor as though it owed him rent, eyes fixed downward so he wouldn't have to meet mine. I carried my folder against my chest, its manila edges softened from weeks of handling. On the top sat 3 receipts and a glossy caption printout. The HELOC for $75,000, the $8,000 resort bill from Mexico, the jewelry slip for $3,200 dated the same day I collapsed in the ER, and Kendra's smiling words blown up in black ink. Finally, a drama-free family dinner. Those pages were louder than any voice I could raise. The bailiff opened the courtroom door with a casual swing, and we shuffled in. Wooden pews lined the space, the flag drooped softly behind the magistrate's bench, and fluorescent lights hummed overhead, just like they had in the ER weeks earlier. Alicia slid beside me, crisp in her navy suit, carrying her own folder stacked with color-coded tabs. "Facts, not theater," she whispered. I nodded. That had become our creed. When called, we moved to the front. Ryan and Kendra took their side of the table, their postures practiced, shoulders square like they were posing for a picture no one wanted. Kendra's blazer was cream, immaculate, and she kept smoothing the lapel as if a crease might betray her. Sophie shifted closer to me, brave in her quiet way. Alicia began. She placed each receipt in turn on the table, sliding them forward until the magistrate leaned down to read. Home equity line of credit, $75,000, opened last fall, listed under Ms. Brooks' name but tied to Mr. Brooks' contact number. A resort charge of $8,000 on Christmas week, while their minor daughter was placed with friends. Jewelry purchase of $3,200 made on the same day Ms. Brooks was admitted to the emergency room. Her words were measured, as though each syllable carried its own affidavit. The magistrate's eyebrow lifted when Alicia placed the caption printout on top. The inked words seemed even uglier enlarged, the photograph staged in my dining room with the table I had once polished every Sunday. Finally, a drama-free family dinner. It wasn't evidence of fraud, but it was evidence of character. And in this room, that mattered. Sophie's turn came. She sat straight, her shoes barely brushing the floor. "On Christmas," she said softly, "I stayed at my friend Emily's house. We played board games, drank cocoa. Mom and Dad said they were helping sick relatives, but—" Her voice trembled. Alicia prompted gently, "Did you see any evidence of illness?" Sophie shook her head. "No, I saw pictures later, online. They were at the beach." A hush fell. Even the guardian ad litem, pencil hovering above his notepad, paused mid-scratch. It was the smallest gesture, but it told me everything. Truth was landing. The magistrate leaned back, steepling her fingers. "Emergency temporary custody is granted," she said, voice firm but not unkind. She looked directly at Sophie. "Until further review, you'll stay with your grandmother. Exchanges, if any, will be supervised. A guardian ad litem will file a report." Sophie's shoulders released tension I hadn't known she was holding. My own lungs loosened, as though the air in the room had finally been allowed to circulate. Ryan shifted, jaw tight. Kendra's smile never cracked, but her knuckles whitened on the table edge. Alicia gathered the papers with calm precision, sliding them back into the folder. We walked out together, Sophie's hand steady in mine. The hallway looked different on the way out, brighter somehow, though the same bulbs glowed above. Alicia checked her phone as we passed the security station. "Next calendar is criminal," she said, tone brisk. "We'll head upstairs." Upstairs, the municipal court felt less solemn, more transactional. The benches were crowded with defendants in work boots and wrinkled shirts, their attorneys leaning in close for last-minute whispers. The smell shifted from floor polish to burnt coffee from a vending machine. We took our seats near the aisle. Sergeant Miguel Torres stepped forward when our case was called. His summary was concise, clipped into official language. "Pattern of identity theft spanning approximately 18 months. Multiple accounts in the victim's name. Payments traced to Mr. Brooks's device and address. Evidence includes receipts, digital captures, and corroborating witness statements." He didn't look at me as he spoke, and I appreciated that. It kept the focus on the record, not on pity. Then Tessa Monroe, Kendra's sister, stood at the edge of the courtroom. Her voice shook, but she got the words out. Their grandmother. The years of unexplained withdrawals, the nursing home placement, the vanishing savings. She admitted she had stayed quiet too long. The judge's pen slowed on the docket sheet, the sound of ink deliberate. When Tessa stepped down, she avoided her sister's eyes and walked straight out the side door. The judge cleared her throat. "Protective order is issued. No contact outside supervised exchanges. No tampering with devices or records. The matter proceeds to plea conference." Her tone left little oxygen for protest. Ryan muttered something under his breath. Kendra touched his arm as though image control could still matter, but the bailiff had already called the next case. Later, at the title company, the granite counter gleamed beneath recessed lighting. A bowl of complimentary mints sat between neatly stacked folders. Denise slid the closing packet forward with the smoothness of someone who had done this 1,000 times. "Initial here, sign there," she murmured. Each page turned like a chapter shutting. The notary's stamp thumped with finality. When the wire confirmation dinged on my phone, it felt less like money and more like oxygen returning. I slipped a blue plastic pen with the company's logo into my bag, an unremarkable souvenir, but it marked the end of Maple Street. We carried the manila envelope out into early evening light. For dinner, Sophie and I ate lo mein from white cartons, sitting on the bare floor of my apartment. The noodles steamed against the cool April air seeping through the window, and the quiet was as heavy and clean as snowfall. On the courthouse steps the next morning, Alicia's phone buzzed. She glanced, then read aloud. "Plea talks opened. Restitution on the table." She allowed herself the faintest smile. I tilted my face to the pale sun, and the air did feel wider, as if the building itself had released its grip. But peace never lasted long. My phone chimed. "Ryan, if you hadn't made this public," another ping from an unknown number. "You don't understand why I did it. K." I closed the screen without answering. The courthouse doors swung behind us, heavy and slow, and I felt the weight of both messages pressing against the relief in my chest. Justice was in motion, but so was manipulation, and both had my number. Asheville mornings taste like porch coffee and wet leaves. The air in October carries that particular crispness that makes you breathe deeper, as though your lungs have been waiting all year. Sophie is in the backyard with a hammer too big for her hand, smacking nails into a pine plank we scavenged from Mr. Green's scrap pile. She pauses only to print in block letters across the first beam. "No drama queens." Her laugh rises into the trees, sharper than any gavel, lighter than any verdict. Inside the house, a cedar box sits on the bookshelf. I keep 3 things there: the ER wristband, the stamped emergency motion, and the title company receipt folded once. Beside it on the fridge, a grocery list hangs under a tourist magnet shaped like a Blue Ridge cabin. Bananas, oatmeal, boundaries. The handwriting is mine, but Sophie added the last word, grinning when she did it. Alicia's voicemail plays as I sand the step for the treehouse ladder. Her voice is brisk as always. "Ryan accepted a plea. 2 years, restitution schedule approved. Kendra, community service, probation, financial literacy classes. No contact without court approval." I press the phone between shoulder and ear while the rasp of sandpaper makes its own punctuation. When the message ends, I slip the phone into my pocket and keep sanding. Justice has landed, but it doesn't need a parade. At Goodwill the next morning, I push a bag of staging curtains across the counter. The fabric still smells faintly of the lemon cleaner they used for showings. The volunteer drops the coins into the clink of a donation slot and thanks me, not knowing the weight those curtains carried. Walking back to the car, I feel lighter, as though even fabric can hold residue of false hospitality, and letting it go clears the air. Saturdays mean the farmer's market on Pack Square. Mrs. Patel sells basil starts in reused yogurt cups, her bangles catching sunlight as she makes change. Sophie picks the tallest plant and cradles it like a kitten. "For pasta nights," she says, serious as a contract. Down the row, a bluegrass duo plays Shady Grove, while a boy in overalls taps a plastic spoon against his mother's coffee cup. Life here hums without anyone staging it. In November, I join a senior center workshop on spotting scams. The multi-purpose room smells of coffee from a styrofoam urn and floor wax from the night janitor. I stand at the whiteboard and draw a line. Date, document, device. "Keep a simple timeline," I tell them. "Freeze your credit. Don't trust mail you didn't expect. Screenshots can be stronger than memory." People scribble notes. Afterward, a man with a veteran's cap hugs me by the vending machines. His grip says thank you in a way words don't. December drapes Asheville in cold rain instead of snow. Sophie strings battery lights inside the treehouse. She calls me up to see, and we sit on the floorboards while drops patter on the roof. Her cheeks glow in the fairy light. "It's nice when things are just normal," she says. I nod, knowing normal is the most extraordinary gift. Ryan's monitored call comes just before Christmas. The automated voice clicks through the warning. "This call is from a correctional facility." His voice, when it comes, sounds rehearsed. "Mom, I need commissary money. Maybe help with an appeal. We can fix this if you—" I interrupt, keeping my tone steady. "I'm not the bank, Ryan. I hope you do the work." Silence holds for 2 beats before the system cuts the line. I write the date on the timeline binder. Boundary observed. Kendra doesn't call. Her updates arrive through notices, proof of completed hours at a community food pantry, probation report signed with a different kind of ink. Once, I catch sight of her in a local news photo, hair tied back, handing a sack of canned goods into a trunk. She looks thinner, brittle in a way ambition can't cover. I fold the clipping into the cedar box, but feel no triumph, only distance. Winter passes with small rituals. Sophie builds her science fair volcano at the kitchen table, baking soda and vinegar foaming over poster board. I clap at the eruption, and she beams like she split an atom. On Sundays, neighbors gather in my yard to share stew and cornbread. Mr. Green brings his ladder when the treehouse roof needs patching. Mrs. Patel brings jars of chutney. Community looks like mismatched bowls stacked in my sink and voices spilling warmth across dark evenings. The turning point comes one gray afternoon in February. Sophie hands me a Sharpie and says, "Add something." Under no drama queens, we letter together. Yes, grandma's allowed. Our laughter bounces off the bare branches, free of echo, rooted in present time. The door that rattled for years has finally gone still. There's no cliffhanger left, only a soft door ajar. On my laptop, I open a new document and title it, "What I Wish I Knew at 60. Line 1. Set boundaries. Don't bankroll disrespect." The cursor blinks, ready for more, but I close the lid. Some truths don't need polishing. They just need living. That night, porch coffee gives way to porch cocoa. Sophie and I sit wrapped in blankets, watching lights from neighboring houses flicker in the distance. She leans against me, heavier now, less child than she was a year ago, but not yet grown. "Grandma," she says, "it's peaceful here." No apologies, only peace. Sitting on that porch in Asheville, with Sophie's laughter still echoing from the treehouse, I finally felt the quiet I had been chasing all along. What I learned is simple. When we draw firm boundaries, we give love a place to grow without fear or debt. Families aren't perfect, but respect and kindness are the real inheritance we leave behind, far more lasting than any house or account. If this story stirred something in you, I'd love to hear your reflections. Share what peace has meant in your own life. Sometimes, telling our truths is the best way to help someone else find theirs.